Time for the Just Baseball Show. Thank you all so much for joining us wherever you may be ingesting your podcasts, audio-wise on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, video-wise live on X, maybe on YouTube, of course, YouTube in the archives, and of course with our friends at SportsGrid. Jacob Misiorowski, this guy's awesome, huh? We're going to talk about him for a little bit. We've got so many other things to talk about in Major League Baseball here on the Just Baseball Show, and of course, it's brought to you by BetMGM. Crack, that's the sound of the bat from BetMGM. A reminder, you have that bonus game that you can play on BetMGM, and of course, you can make it legendary. That link is in our episode description there. I want to waste no time here, Aram Leighton, because it's all about the Miz right now, and I want to expand it into a big Brewer conversation as well. Jacob Misiorowski, last time out against the St. Louis Cardinals, was untouchable yet again. Jacob Misiorowski, in his last 5 starts, has allowed a whopping 1 earned run. It happened last night on Monday night against the St. Louis Cardinals. He punched out 12, and in his last 31 and a third innings, there are 11 hits against him. He's punched out 49 and walked 6. That's a 0.29 ERA and a FIP, fielding independent pitching, of 0.52. Misiorowski is the strikeout leader in Major League Baseball, and his season total is exactly at 100. There's a number that I want to point out as well after you kind of wax poetic about Misiorowski and his gaudy strikeout numbers. But, dude, this guy is on a heater of all heaters at this moment, and he has to be looking like the front runner for National League Cy Young.
This is such a fun race. This is going to be a wild one. But, yeah, at this point, how do you go anywhere else when you have somebody that basically walks out on the mound and looks like a closer for 6 to 7 plus innings, right? Like I don't think we've ever really seen anything like it. So it continues to be something I feel like no matter how much we talk about it needs to get more airtime, because I feel like if you are not, no matter what team you're a fan of, if you're not circling Misiorowski starts and sitting down and watching them as a baseball fan, you're missing out, because we really haven't seen anything like this from a starter. To the same point where Mason Miller, anytime he's about to come in, I see it's the 9th inning and the Padres are up, I'm flipping it over there, right? Yeah. Because I don't want to miss the opportunity to watch that. With Misiorowski, you get to see this guy come back out of the dugout and do it again. Then come back out of the dugout and do it again. And like, you might say, oh, it's kind of crazy to compare it to Mason. This stuff is pretty much right there with Mason Miller, which is crazy because he's doing that while turning lineups over. I think it's a combination of things. You have a freak level talent, like a rare talent we've almost never seen, put in the perfect organization to maximize that freak level talent. We've seen what Kyle Harrison, a unique talent, has been able to maximize in the Brewers organization. You put an alien in with the Brewers, and we're seeing what happens now all of a sudden.
Yeah, dude. I mean, Misiorowski, the couple of numbers that I guess are pertinent to me, 57 pitches at 100 miles an hour or above yesterday. There's no other starter that even comes close to doing this. And occasionally we see a starter grab 100 miles an hour, right? Like we see Hunter Green do that when he's healthy and on the mound for Cincinnati. We see Yuri Perez do that with Miami. We see other guys do that. Skubal runs it up to 100 miles an hour. 57 times over the course of one game where he punches out 12 against St. Louis, who has been a good team, mind you. That is unheard of from a starting pitcher. Nobody can sustain that velocity for that long, but here we are with the Miz. Brewers just put this out. Jacob Misiorowski currently leads Major League Baseball in punch-outs at 100, in strikeout percentage at 40.3%, in strikeout minus walk at 33%, strikeouts per 9 at 14, and batting average against at $152. The thing that jumps out to me here with Misiorowski is this guy is walking fewer than 3 hitters per 9 innings. Last year, in 66 innings of work, he walked 31 guys. In 64 innings of work so far this year, he's walked 19 hitters. I was never expecting him to be this in the strike zone and this dominant, but you want to talk about trusting your stuff? That's exactly what's happening right now with Misiorowski.
Yes, but I also think like he probably trusted it in Double-A too. He couldn't put it there all the time. And so the fact that now that he can, and you have the edge of like, well, I definitely trust it. Like he doesn't have to worry about missing over the middle, so he could just really focus on throwing it down the middle. But that was going to be my biggest takeaway too, Jack. Is like last 5 starts, 71% strike rate across his arsenal. Are you kidding me? for a guy with those levers and how long-limbed he is and how hard he throws and how much everything moves. I don't want to take anything away from Misiorowski. I just want to
No.
shout out Chris Hook. Because we talk about a lot of pitching coaches, and I don't know if Chris Hook gets enough love to do what he's done and what the Brewers org has done with Kyle Harrison, who's completely different from Jacob Misiorowski, who's completely different from Quinn Priester, and all of these guys are maximized. I think is so cool. But this is like the final boss experiment here, where you have a JUCO player who throws 1,000,000 miles an hour with crazy stuff, and it's flailing limbs everywhere. When I watched him in high A and double A, to now look like a polished arm that still has the freak stuff, but can put it where he wants. At least generally within the quadrant, it is just outrageous stuff. Because if Jacob Misiorowski isn't giving you free passes, how the heck are you going to beat him?
I don't really think you do. The other number that jumps out is he's only allowed 4 homers so far in his 64 innings of work. And Peyton just mentioned on a graphic here, the last time that Jacob Misiorowski allowed an extra base hit, I believe, was April 19th in Kyle Stowers' season debut. April 19th in Miami against the Marlins. Stowers lined a ball down the right field line for a double, and that's been it against Jacob Misiorowski. So he has this elite ability to not only extend down the mound, not only strike dudes out, but avoid barrels as well. We see a lot of guys jump into a situation where, okay, 101's over the heart of the plate, like they're going to get clipped and they're going to hit it hard. Nobody's hitting it hard against Misiorowski, and it could be in part because this guy's extension and sheer velocity being married is absolutely insane. Jacob Misiorowski, in terms of perceived velocity, yes, in actual velocity, he's throwing the ball 103 miles an hour at points. But he has thrown multiple pitches with a perceived velocity because of the extension and the carry that he gets on his four-seam fastball that have been north of 106 miles an hour. This is never before seen fastball stuff from Misiorowski on top of a mid-90 slider, on top of a 90-mile-an-hour curveball. The velocity and extension marriage is creating a unicorn and someone that people are going to be talking about in 50 years.
That was going to be my guess. I'm glad we actually have a legit perceived velocity stat here, because he's extending a full foot down the mound more than the average arm, on top of the fact that he's throwing 103, miles an hour. And obviously he's averaging closer to 101. But you pair those two things together, and hitters, you can't even, how do you prepare for that? You put the machine 10 feet away from you and crank it all the way up before a game. Like, there's nothing you can do, because the second that you start to try to speed up for that, he's going to get you with the slider, which at 95, it's really like a cutter-ish slide. It's a crazy pitch. He's going to get you with that pitch, or he's going to get you with the curveball, which is a power curve, almost death ball, but at 88 is a lot of separation velocity-wise, but also is still sharp as can be. So it's just craziness. And he's flashed this changeup, and I just want him, like, what happens if that pitch becomes a little bit more reliable and he starts to throw that pitch more? Like, it's game over, but it already is game over. So it is. We are at a point, and it's different. And that's why I love baseball, is that Paul Skeens is must watch. Geez, sorry. Christopher Sanchez is must watch. And Misiorowski's must watch, all in different ways. That said, if I'm taking somebody who's maybe never really watched a baseball game and I want to show them the coolest thing possible, other than Shohei Ohtani doing both in a game, I think I'm showing them, look at this guy throw the ball, and this will blow your mind. I just don't think we've really, like you said, seen anything like it.
We've got about a minute left on this segment here, so I do want to take it real quick to a Brewer conversation. With the way Kyle Harrison is throwing the baseball, with the way the other guys in that bullpen are throwing the baseball, like Chad Patrick has just been this beast out of the bullpen, and they have plenty of other guys that have closer type of stuff. Milwaukee currently sits 2.5 games in front of St. Louis, 3.5 in front of the Cubs, 4 in front of Cincinnati, and 4.5 in front of Pittsburgh. You have to think it's Milwaukee's division to lose right now because of what they have in the starting pitching department. Unfortunately, the Priester's not really finding the zone in his rehabs. But Misiorowski is fronting this rotation that should put him in a position to win that division and should be one of the favorites outside of the Dodgers in the National League. We've got about 20 seconds left. If the Brewers don't win the division, why?
I don't know. I would say a couple arms go down. Like, I would say Misiorowski and Harrison go down, because the craziest part with them is no Priester, no Woodruff, trade Peralta, and pitching is still their strength. They do it every year.
We're talking about the top of the league right now. We're going to talk about the bottom of the league when we come back. Those Mets. Next on the Just Baseball Show.
Now we have to endure months of manufactured rumors about will he or won't he retire LeBron James. They are probably, Donnie, working on the Decision 2.0 for Amazon Prime as we speak. Is Jim Gray still around? But here is the beauty of the predictive markets. They make insufferable stories about insufferable people highly profitable.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Mattingly is doing a great job, clearly, right? They're 16-4 since he took over, but we have to remember when Rob Thompson took over for the Phillies and they went 65-46 back in 2022, he finished 5th in NL Manager of the Year that year. So could Mattingly win it? Of course, but he doesn't really have history on his side. I'm still on Don Kelly 15-1 to win Manager of the Year.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Just Baseball Show, of course, presented by the fine folks at BetMGM. Time to talk about the New York Mets, Aram Leighton, because we got an up-close and personal look at them in South Florida over the weekend, and they are on a 4-game stretch that looks absolutely abysmal. The New York Mets are not scoring runs right now. They have not been scoring runs all season long. Their team OPS over the course of the entire year sits at 643. Now, there are a handful of teams that are under a 700 team OPS. There are a handful of teams that are under a 680 team OPS. The third worst team OPS in baseball belongs to the Toronto Blue Jays, and it sits at 678. They are 28th in baseball at 678. 29th is the San Diego Padres at 657. So we're talking about a 21-point drop between 28th and 29th, and the Mets are in the bottom. They are 15 points back of the Padres at 643, 14 points to be exact. So you've got a whole clump of bad teams team OPS-wise. Then you've got the Padres that are a step down from the clump of bad teams. And then you got the Mets that are a step down from that other clump of bad teams. One other point that I want to make here before I turn it over to you is the New York Mets had one at-bat with runners in scoring position on Friday and Saturday. They've lost 4 in a row. The New York Mets one at-bat with a guy standing at second base. It came in the 9th inning of Saturday's ball game. They did not have an at-bat like that on Friday. And what do they do on Sunday and Monday? They turn around and go a combined 0 for 14 with runners in scoring position. So they weren't even getting guys to second base, and as soon as they started to, they forgot how to hit as well. I understand Lindor's not in the fold, Robert's not in the fold, Polanco's not in the fold, Alvarez isn't in the fold, and Soto's missed the last 2 with an illness. But, dude, this is the worst offense in baseball to watch, and I don't know if it's close.
You can't really appreciate how horrific a lineup is until you're subject to watch it 1 through 9. And in covering the game down in South Florida, that is one of the more dormant lineups I can remember, especially when Juan Soto gets scratched right before. It's just crazy because even with that, if you had the last year versions of some of these guys, I think it goes a little bit better. But even then, I started to try to talk myself into that. I'm like, not real. How much better could it really be? I think the biggest thing is Bo Bichette, but is Bo Bichette by himself going to be the difference between this team being good or bad? I don't know. I think the Polanco situation obviously stinks. I just think a big part of this too is, and this is the tough part because we just talked about the Brewers replacing star arms in aggregate or just finding another star arm. And it feels like Stearns thought he could do that a little bit with this lineup, especially with Pete Alonso going in the other direction. And saying, oh, well, yeah, we were going to lose Alonso, but we'll add Bichette and we'll add Polanco, and we'll add a couple other guys and see how it goes. And I just don't think that really worked out. I do think there's been a lot of unfortunate circumstance here. I mean, when you look at the IL, Soto's missed time. Lindor has been out for most of the year so far. And then even like their insurance policy, like Jared Young tore his meniscus. He would probably be one of the better bats they've got right now in the lineup. Luis Robert, you knew what was going to happen, but it's immediately just been like worst case scenario there health-wise. And I really thought Polanco would be good. So from that perspective, like I do feel for them a little bit, but it's not like they're doing anything particularly well. Every move has looked bad. And as a guy that's been a huge David Stearns fan, I've come away from this just kind of thinking like sometimes great GMs just have a bad year. I still think he's a really good executive, but I think he has really struggled to adjust to this new environment, which is you don't know. And you'd think it would be easier, right? You give a guy that's a really good bargain shopper a ton of money to work with, and then he starts overpaying for stuff. And I think that's just kind of what's happened here. As a great bargain shopper was given a lot of money, and now he's overpaying for stuff, and now you're stuck.
And trying to, I guess, move around and maneuver the jigsaw puzzle. You mentioned Alonso not being in the fold anymore. I do want to shout out Brandon Nimmo, who's having a solid year so far with the Texas Rangers.
Horrific.
Like, dude, Nimmo in 51 ball games is hitting 270 with a 780 OPS. So Nimmo would be such a net positive for this lineup that is running out in all rookie outfield. Saw a note that this is the earliest that the Mets have run out an all rookie starting lineup outfield since like the 70s. And Lee Mazzilli was in the outfield there. But it's Benj, it's Ewing, and it's Nick Morabito. I mean, now you've got other guys that are hanging out, like Tyrone Taylor is starting ball games in the outfield, and Tyrone Taylor's been around for a minute. But there is an over-reliance on Benj and Ewing. When Soto was scratched, the top three in that lineup was Benj and his 650 OPS, Bichette and his 580 OPS, and then Ewing, who's 12 games into his major league career. It's really hard to look at, and I like watching Benj. I like watching Ewing. Morabito's fast. He hasn't really hit the ground running at the outset of his major league career, but we're only 5 games in. It's just something that is impossible to watch and stomach right now if I were a Met fan.
My biggest thing is, again, Stearns can be great on the trades in terms of going to get prospects and things like that. That's clearly something he's good at. But yeah, like the Semien for Nimmo trade, like clearly was just a weird one that didn't really make sense for them. And maybe at the time you could see it from a roster construction standpoint. Okay, what other moves are they going to make? But you just traded a better hitter for a guy that's aging and looks putrid right now at second base, and you're stuck with that deal now. You just inherited a worse deal.
Right.
What does a selling Mets look like? Because Bichette's a poison pill contract until he starts hitting better, because he's going to just opt in. You're not trading Soto. You're not trading Lindor. You can't trade Semien in any world. You're not trading, McLean. Of course, you'll get whatever you can get for your relievers. But what does a selling Mets team look like? You hope Jorge Polanco comes back and you can dangle him. Like, that's the biggest part is, yes, they still have a good farm system. But and maybe your best trade chip, Clay Holmes, is out with a fractured fibula. How do you reset and set this team up a little bit better for moving forward?
Best trade chip that isn't Clay Holmes is Freddie Peralta. Like, that's the way to get out of this. Final year of control, Freddie Peralta, that's it. He's cheap. He hits the open market after this. So you are trading a rental frontline starter. Now, a rental frontline starter can still get you a lot. And we'll see what the Tigers want to do with Skubal when he comes back and is healthy. But, like, Freddie could be one of, if not the best pitchers moved at the trade deadline. But that's the only way you do this. I guess, you could throw in the towel on a Luke Weaver and think about moving him in year one of a 2-year deal. But that would stink for Weaver. And Weaver's been good for them. So over the course of the next year and a half, I mean, you are saying, okay, we got to find somebody else that's Luke Weaver adjacent because we had to trade Luke Weaver for prospect capital. I don't think there's a way to do it. I think you're banking on a good Freddie return for maybe proximity big leaguers. I just don't know what a sell job looks like for the Mets. And honestly, I bet they're willing to ride this out until they get a couple more guys off the IL, and they're not going to deem themselves eliminated from any conversation until like July 4th. And is it going to be too late? Probably. But that's, I guess, the burden of the Mets and the highest cash payroll in baseball. With the deferrals, the Mets have the most expensive payroll in baseball in 2026. And they're running out this lineup. It's just really hard to watch. But We will push forward here on the Just Baseball Show. Just Baseball Show continues. We just talked about a Met lineup that can't hit. Now it's time to talk about a Ranger lineup that did not hit on Monday. The Houston Astros fired a combined no-hitter on Monday night. It was Tatsuya Imai that got the ball in a start for the Houston Astros, and he fired no-hit innings. He did walk 4, Imai did, but then he hands it off to Steven Okert for 1. Imai 6 no-hit innings. Okert for a hitless 7th. And then Alimber Santa, in his major league debut, fired 2 perfect innings, and the final out recorded in a combined no-no was his first major league strikeout. Houston beats Texas 9-0 in Arlington, and Imai, Okert, and Santa combined for the no-hitter. It's the first no-hitter in the big league since 2024. And this note from Sarah Langs, Alimber Santa is the second player in major league history to pitch in a no-hitter in his MLB debut. The only other guy, Bumpus Jones in 1892, who threw a no-hitter in his major league debut. Who would have thought Bumpus Jones and Alimber Santa were going to be the 2 guys on a list?
You know what's awesome, too, is like a couple of things that are awesome about baseball. One, Bumpus Jones, he's probably not been mentioned in 30 years. I hope for his like lineage sake. Maybe I'm being rude, but like, I'd imagine Bumpus Jones, like, it's been so long. I don't know. Maybe his name, like the full name, like maybe they were talking about Grandpa Bump or something like that. But like, I don't think anyone said full name Bumpus Jones, maybe in a lot of years. And you never know what happens. Always Sarah Langs will find a way to bring him back up with her amazing stats. And like, here we go. We're mentioning something from there. The other part that's amazing is this is the worst pitching staff in Major League Baseball, and they just threw a no-hitter. And that's why this sport is absolutely amazing. Worst pitching staff. 5.08 ERA after the no-hitter as a team. That is the worst in Major League Baseball, behind the Rockies, behind the Angels. The other aspect that I love about this is this was a pitcher that was just like on the IL for arm fatigue, but it was can't adjustitis and like still learning how to understand like also very funny. I don't know if you saw the video of him doing the coffee run with
that was great.
He looked like a fish out of water there. The Tatsuya Imai I'm rooting for. One, selfishly, because I put a very bullish report out on him.
Yeah,
but
sure.
2, because anytime you see a player come over, you want to see them succeed. I can't imagine how difficult it is to make that leap. Now, millions of dollars makes it easier, but still got to be very difficult to do it. This guy is coming off of just not even being able to adjust and being putrid on the mound. The rest of his team is putrid on the mound. And it wasn't just him doing it himself. He handed it over to the rest of the team that's also been putrid on the mound, and they close out a no-hitter in the first since 24. And that's why baseball is wonderfully unpredictable and just the best sport.
And you would think if it was going to be anybody in Houston to get the ball rolling on a no-hitter, it would be Arrighetti. Spencer Arrighetti has been the lone bright spot in that Astro rotation on that Astro pitching staff. But you've got Santa closing that thing out. There's no Brian Abreu. Abreu has been awful so far this year, and it sucks for him. It's a contract year. But Imai, the subplot there, you mentioned can't adjust itis. This guy fired 6 no-hit innings to lower his season ERA to 6.17. It's so cool. And this is where you get like the JT Ginn flirting with a no-hitter. This is where you get the last perfect game we had in Domingo Germán after midnight Eastern in Oakland against the A's. Just crazy there that I guess this Astros version is the one to throw the no-hitter. But Houston, like, I would ask you if this is a sign of encouraging baseball for the Houston Astros. I can't do that over the course of one night. Like, no, Houston is still, it seems like dead in the water, but good for the Astros on Monday night and happy for them that they were able to lock up the first no-hitter in Major League Baseball since 24. Also, with how much we talk about pitching dominance, it's amazing to think we went an entire year last year without a no-hitter. And we made it until May 25th without one this year.
We were complaining, I think, in 23 on the show. At least I was complaining. I think
too many no-hitters.
Yeah, I was like, these are getting lame. Here we are. The last thing I'll say on this, though, is like I do still think this team is kind of flailing in the water. We've talked about it. Like I've made a case that if it doesn't get better, they should trade Yordan. However, they got one last little shot at this thing here because they swept over the weekend. They throw this no-hitter. If Imai is starting to throw the ball a little bit better, all of a sudden you've got Josh Hader on rehab. He dominated in his rehab outing. I think Hunter Brown just threw a rehab outing. Those two guys coming back would help a lot. You know, they're going to get some guys off the IL eventually, and Diaz, maybe Altuve. They're both obliqued out, so it might be a little bit of time. Perfito will come back. Trammell is on rehab. I don't know. You can dream on them just hitting a parlay only because the AL is horrific. So look, I still think this team is not good, and they ultimately end up selling. However, if I'm an Astros fan, like I'm not, if an Astros fan asks me, I'm not calling you delusional for saying, hey, I think we could find our way into this thing and play some meaningful games in September just because they have positive things coming back here. And maybe some guys are starting to put it together. But again, I still think it's not going to happen. Not fully delusional to keep hoping for it, though.
It's the earliest I've literally ever looked at the wild card standings. But for the sake of the bit, I did just look at the wild card standings. The Minnesota Twins currently hold the final wild card spot in the American League. They're 2 games under 500. The Houston Astros, with how awful they've been this year, are 2.5 games back in the final wild card spot. Anything can happen. It's the end of May.
You can't rule those guys out. You can't. And
can't
the fact that they have Hader coming back and Hunter Brown, that's enough for me to say, hey, you got a puncher's chance.
More Just Baseball show when we come back.
The UIM Formula One World Championship Series. We are over the moon excited about the upcoming season.
Let's go.
10,000 horsepower roars off the dock. Oh my, there's a problem. On the outside, side by side. And he's lost control of the book. Hopes and dreams of winning here.
Yes!
Get ready for round 1, the Regione Sardegna Grand Prix of Italy, May 29th to 31st.
Craig Carton along with Tyrone Johnson. We got great news for you. CraigCartonShow.com. And Tyrone, what do you get if you go to that amazing website?
Well, right now you can subscribe to our upcoming newsletter. You put in your email address, and then bang, you'll get all the new Craig Carton Show content when it arrives.
Not just that, you also get merch drops, exclusive content, and appearances. So again, one more time, that website is CraigCartonShow.com.
Another team that is really, really, really difficult to play against is Ecuador. And people just think, Ecuador, like, you know, how much of a budget do they have or whatnot, right? But Ecuador are good. Like, I'm telling you, like, everybody's like, I don't want to have to face Ecuador. Like, that won't be fun. Like, there are a couple of these sleepers, but ultimately to win the World Cup, it's a lot like the NCAA tournament.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
Just Baseball Show continues, as always, presented by the wonderful folks at BetMGM. Want to take us back to the National League East. We talked about the New York Mets and how they were offensively anemic. They couldn't do anything with all of their team on the IL right now, and Soto day-to-day with an illness. But I do want to take you to a positive story here in the National League East right now, and it is the duo of the Philadelphia Phillies and the Washington Nationals. The Washington Nationals have won 3 in a row. They are a game over 500 at 28-27. Meanwhile, Philly is 27-27, and Don Mattingly has been managing like the best in baseball so far in his managerial tenure after the Phillies parted ways with Rob Thompson. Couple of notes here from our friends at Just Baseball, or from us at Just Baseball, I should say, but our friends on the social side. The Nats offense in 2025, they were bottom 3 in the National League in runs scored. They were bottom 4 in WRC plus, and they had a bottom 5 offense through the eyes of F4. In 2026, they have scored more runs than anybody else in Major League Baseball. They are 4th in Major League Baseball in Team WRC plus, and they're 5th in Major League Baseball by lineup F4. Now, that is being buoyed by a couple of guys, right? Wood and Abrams are certainly the guys that are stirring the drink at the moment. But they shipped Brady House down to Rochester. They recalled Dylan Cruz. They are mixing and matching. Nasim Nunez has not been a good guy in the batter's box, but when he's on base, he's stealing bases with the best of them in Major League Baseball right now. Their offense is like, you can't take your eyes off of it right now.
It's so much fun. And I mean, they're blitzing some teams that are throwing the ball really well. It just seems like no matter who they face right now, like they're well prepared and they're swinging it. And I think you mentioned like Naz Nunez is probably the one spot of the lineup that you're looking at and saying, okay, that's a weakness, I guess, there, but then he gives you value in legitimately every other facet of the game. But other than that, there's not really a weakness in this lineup. They brought up Dylan Cruz, and so you hope that he can hit his footing. But like, could you imagine if I told you 2 years ago, like after the pick, that in a couple years, the Nationals will be above 500 and Dylan Cruz may be one of the weaker links in the lineup at that present moment? Like that is ridiculous. You wouldn't believe me. And that's the thing that I'm seeing with this team is, and I've said it a lot ad nauseum on the podcast, but I just think a lot of players who stalled out or hit a wall last year or just haven't been able to regain the production that we've seen from them in the past, like a Keibert Ruiz or Luis Garcia, are better this year because I just think there's better infrastructure there. Information. I mean, and an Abrams, how do you take a good player and make him great? And we'll see if he can sustain it through the year. I think this is going to be the year that he does it, because you think about an Abrams who hits a wall second half of last year, and maybe some of that was, self-inflicted, but also just not having the information maybe to figure out what he's doing wrong, how to get right, whatever it may be. This is why I think this Nationals organization, we said it from day one, even before this team was succeeding in the major league level, that you could see the shift minor league wise. I can't remember the last time I've seen a shift with the major league side of things that quickly, other than the Rockies as well. And I think it shows you two teams here that were maybe operating so archaically that you could actually fix it pretty quickly at the big league level. Now, does that mean that they're going to compete all year long? I don't know. But I think it's abundantly clear when you have a guy like Keibert Ruiz, who has been putrid the last couple of years, has the ability now back to being that solid bat. You have a guy like Luis Garcia back to being a little bit more like himself. And then you have your really good players taking that big step forward. And then on the pitching side as well. So I just think it's very clear that Taboni has created an infrastructure that is going to help his players be set up for success and maximize their abilities. And that is very clear that was not happening in the last few years.
And they made some personnel swaps, like in terms of who was already on the roster that's performing better. Like Keibert Ruiz, I didn't expect to see a 7 leading his OPS at any time soon, but he's got a 754 OPS so far this year. He's been swinging it as of late. Lyle, we already knew was good. It feels like he's being a bit unlocked. Abrams, we already knew was good. It feels like he's being a bit unlocked. There are guys like that. Nasim Nunez, again, OPS under 500, but he's 22 for 24 in the stolen base department. Feels like he and the best version of him is being a little unlocked. But you see it best, honestly, in what they're doing on the hill. Like Orlando Ribalta was a guy that has been in that situation for quite a while. He's been in the Washington fold for quite a while. But this pitching infrastructure has quickly changed the way that Orlando Ribalta can throw the baseball. And so far, opponents are hitting under 200 against him in 11 2/3 innings. Richard Lovelady in his Washington time, 15 2/3. He's scattering hits, he's scattering walks, and he's got an ERA under 2. PJ Poulin has been an interesting arm for them. Foster Griffin, I know he had that blow-up start, but Foster Griffin was a good identification. They are doing really well at winning in the margins right now, and that'll result in some good things. Meanwhile, you've got the big bad Phillies who are just becoming the big bad Phillies again. Like, you always knew it was in there with a lot of these Phillies. Here with Stott, Bohm was awful at the beginning of the year. Now he's a heck of a lot better. Schwarber went on that tear of homers. Philly, like, there's a much easier path to realizing how they were this good. With Washington, it's a little bit of an underdog story right now.
100%. I think the pitching side is a great point of it where, like, I mean, there was, when they were pretty good, even there were stretches where the offense was performing for the Nats, like you would see, oh, okay, well, the bullpen's probably going to give it up at the end here. Like, they're able to hold leads. Like Brad Ward, I love what we've seen from him in this kind of, stretched out hybrid-ish role that he can fill in on. But like, he's already thrown 35 innings out of the bullpen and been really effective. Andrew Alvarez has been good too. And they've got more arms potentially on the way that can help them. It's just been really impressive to see what they've been able to do on the pitching side. Now, I do think in terms of being built for 162, like there may be some attrition to that pitching staff at the end of the day, and it may get hard towards the end of the year, especially if a guy or two goes down. And that's where, I think the Phillies are built for this a little bit more. But at the same time, like, it's just cool to see the National League East, the floor being raised there in that division with, the Marlins playing better ball of late too. And like the worst team being one of the highest payroll to Major League Baseball, like, the Mets are going to get right back to it, or at least be better moving forward. Like, I don't know. I love seeing a division where the worst team is one of the highest payrolled and the highest payrolled team in the division.
Yeah, 100%. Now with Philly, where do you kind of view them capped this year? Do you still have pitching doubts? Painter has been better over his last handful of starts there. Yeah. So I look at 1 through 5 and I feel a heck of a lot better about it. Sanchez has been throwing like one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball. Wheeler has been throwing like a different version of Wheeler, but a good version of Wheeler so far in his return from the IL. There's a lot to like pitching wise with Philly. Like, I'm just trying to figure out if I view them as a legitimate pennant contender against the Dodgers, against the Brewers, or if they're a different conversation against the Braves too. I'd be remiss to not mention Atlanta.
I think anytime you've got Sanchez to Wheeler to Luzardo, like, you're going to have a shot in any freaking series, especially when it's going to be best of 5 out of the gate, or a wild card series. I think for that reason they're in it. I think it's just, they got to get through the regular season enough. The bats, and at least that's the thing that is the easiest to address. Like, they don't need to touch the rotation. The bullpen is even good enough. If they want to go make a savvy, pickup, they can. I get more bullish on the Phillies by the day, even though I was kind of eulogizing them early here. I still think they're very flawed on the offensive side of things, but that could be an easier area to address this deadline, to just go try to pick up a couple bats. Like, they don't need anything crazy, right? You just need to upgrade. I know Bohm's been better of late, but you just need to upgrade over, a 70 WRC plus at third base, or, a below average offense at second base. Or, I mean, with Adolis Garcia, like, it's not going to be hard to find a better corner outfielder than a 598 OPS and a 70 WRC plus there. So I think being able to shop there and raise the floor of that lineup, Trey's going to perform better. Schwarber's still at his peak form. Harper's playing at a really high level. My concern though is that lineup. And I think they're going to have to make multiple. It's going to need to be kind of like Padres level, which is I think it's a similar roster situation. Padres level, like, go get O'Hearn and Laureano. Like, it's going to need to be one of those. And I think the Phillies can do that. And they have enough, I think, to in the farm system be able to do it. It really stinks that Aiden Miller has been dealing with a back issue, because I thought he could be one of their internal options to be able to help them. He's yet to make his debut this season.
We've got 60 seconds left in this segment. Can I give you the name that I think would be the perfect fit for them in the corner outfield?
Yes.
Taylor Ward in Baltimore.
That is such a good shout. Absolutely.
Final year of control. Baltimore's super underwhelming right now. Ward has been really good. He's been an on-base machine. He's not hitting the ball out of the ballpark. 25 homers in 24, 36 homers in 25 with Anaheim, 2 homers so far in 53 games with the Orioles, but he's OBPing over 400. He's walked 48 times compared to 48 punch-outs. So I love the Ward fit, and I love the right-handed bat in Taylor Ward for the Philly lineup. So that is my favorite one right now. We've got 20 seconds left of this segment if you want to rebuff or just confirm that is the right take.
and then knock out the 2-for-1 like the Padres did. Get Leody Taveras thrown in there. I know he's not the most exciting player in the world, but he's having a great year. And again, if he's a league average bat for you that can play all three outfield spots, raise the floor of that lineup. I love it.
2-for-1 special. More JB Show next. All right, pivoting from the Nats and the Phillies to minor league baseball here in segment 5 of the Just Baseball Show. If you're with us on SportsGrid, also if you're with us on X and YouTube, we appreciate you. Be sure to subscribe on YouTube. Let's take you to a minor league heat sheet here. And we're talking about the best performers in the month of May, but also guys that have plenty of prospect intrigue. There are other guys like Jonah Cox has been really good in the month of May. But I want to take you to, notably, your new number one prospect in the Guardians organization. And it's not Travis Bazzana, the guy in the big leagues. We just got done talking on the call-up about Ralphie Velasquez, the number one prospect in the Guardians organization, who got the bump up to AAA and has not skipped a single beat. What impresses you most about Ralphie Velasquez over his last couple of weeks and really the season as a whole?
I feel bad. You got to hear me say it all over again after we just did Guardians top prospects on the call-up. But this is one of my favorite power bats in the last few years in terms of just the ability to get into that power, but also my confidence in it translating at the highest level with Ralphie Velasquez. He's so ahead of his years. And to see what he did in the second half of last year, where it was the combination of ridiculous power, but the bat to ball that you wouldn't really expect for a guy that is designed for damage in the air consistently. I mean, Ralphie Velasquez has been one of the more advanced power bats that I can remember at 20 years old. I mean, he's going to be 21 in a few days here. So still 20 years old at AAA. To have the ability to crush the ball in the air as hard and as consistently as he does, while virtually never punching out for a player of his archetype, is just ridiculous. And through his first 5 games at AAA, he's already walked more than he struck out, and he's hitting the ball again. I think he's only going to get better and better. And he's already at a point where he's not far from the big leagues, and he's not even in his final form. I absolutely love this kid's bat. And again, even with the success of Bazzana, that's why I put him in number 1.
Another guy with plenty of prospect intrigue, and the prospect intrigue has gone away at points, but again, a guy trying to make a ball club in the state of Ohio. Edwin Arroyo of the Cincinnati Reds organization has been maybe the best bat in minor league baseball so far this year. Edwin Arroyo not only has 8 stolen bases in 48 ball games, but he's got 10 homers already. He's got 5 triples. He's got 9 doubles, 33 driven in 48 ball games, and he's hitting .344 with an OBP over 400 and a .997 OPS. Edwin Arroyo has been nasty as a Louisville bat, and you have to think at some point he's going to be cracking Terry Francona's lineup in Cincinnati very soon.
especially with the way Matt McMullen has been struggling. And I mean, Arroyo has made huge improvements from the left side in particular. And I mean, you look at the swing side by side. I don't know what he was doing setup wise last year. Like his front knee, for those who are watching can see it, but for those who are listening, he was open with his front knee completely like bowed out. And then he would try to load into his backside, but he would just kind of push right back out of his backside because he was leaning so far forward. He was already so bowed out onto that front knee, where now he's more lean towards his backside, a little bit more like, I would say 60-40 towards the backside and setup versus being like 70-30 towards his front side and setup before, and just loads into his backside and swings off of his back leg a lot more easily. And as a result, he has more time. His path is better. And I think it's just helping him also use the ground better to create more or do more damage. Zone contacts up from the left side, 6%. Average exit velocity is up more than 2 miles per hour. Hard hit rate's up 7%. And his average launch angle is up 10 degrees. He's in 1,091 OPS from the left side this year, Arroyo. And when you look at McMullen struggling, and you'll get a guy that's hitting the ball in the air more, that's going to be rewarded in Great American Ballpark. He can play a good shortstop. They obviously don't need him to do that, but it's nice to have. He can play good second base. He can play great second base. He can play good third base. The only interesting variable is he's very aggressive in the box, but at the same time, he's gotten so good at getting bat to ball and he can run, like he can get away with that. I think Arroyo is a huge internal upgrade potentially for them, because even if he's a league average hitter with the defense, with the speed, with the things he brings, I think they could really use a league average hitter, especially with what they've been getting from McMullen and Ke'Bryan Hayes, and he can fill in for both of them with the defensive skill set that he has.
A couple more guys that we want to get to here on the minor league report. Mike Sirota in the Dodgers organization. Mike Sirota bounced around a little bit. Sirota was drafted in the 3rd round by Cincinnati, and he made his way to the Dodgers system. And Sirota in 41 ball games so far this year, including his first week with AA Tulsa, hitting .322 with a 1049 OPS. He's got 14 doubles, 7 homers. He's already walked 38 times. A .322 batting average with a .473 on base. 8 for 9 in the stolen base department. His first week with Tulsa, hit over 300 with 3 doubles. He drove in 4, and he kept the punch-outs in check. You just want to clown on the Gavin Lux deal again.
Well, no, I was gonna blame it on you, even though we worked together on the order of this. I was gonna say, oh, you had to follow up the positive red segment with the Mike Sirota deal, right? And just punish these 4 fans. No, I mean, that trade is gonna go down as all time bad because they also put a comp A pick with it. But beyond that, like, this player, like, he's really, really, really good. I think that trade is legitimately all time bad, because I think Mike Sirota is a top 20, maybe top 30 prospect for us in this next update. The big hurdle with him, everyone kept saying, is like, let's see what he can do in AA, because obviously he's been doing a lot in high A, and obviously he was banged up last year. It's some of the best raw power that we've seen at the lower levels in terms of just the EVs. It's crazy, crazy EVs for a guy that's a plus runner that can play center field. And then the patience and just the well-roundedness, like there's going to be a little bit more whiff at the upper level. So I think that's why the AA hurdle is an important one. But as long as the strikeout rate's below 25%, there's a plus runner who's extremely patient, who has ridiculous raw power that he's getting into pretty consistently already professionally. And if he can play, an above average center field, which it looks like he's the ingredients to do, which is sometimes there's some bad misses out there, but generally tracks the ball really well. This is a like pretty much close to a 5-tool type of guy, with the hit tool being a little bit of the variable, which he immediately hedges with elite plate discipline.
I dig it. Last guy we got to talk about, our first pitcher, Carson Milbrandt, the newly turned 22-year-old who was AA for the Marlins, youngest guy on AA Pensacola's roster. And Milbrandt, through his 8 starts in AA so far this year, a 1.06 ERA. In 42 1/3 innings, he's punched out 63, including a 12 strikeout performance last time out. Is Carson Milbrandt pitching his way onto the top 100?
Oh, yeah, he is. He's going to jump well inside of it, too. This is nuts, dude. We have this stat flash on the screen. It's the whole arsenal. He was great last year, but there was some reliever risk, right? But you saw the swing and miss, 29% strikeout rate in 2025. He said, you know what? I'm going to bump that by 10% in AA this year. And not only that, cut the walk rate by 4% too. So he's chipping away at the reliever risk. He's improving the swing and miss stuff. And then you look at the entirety of the arsenal. I mean, it's a 43% whiff rate across the whole arsenal. The fastball is a 35% whiff rate, and his breaking balls have a 50% whiff rate. There's no pitch that you're kind of saying, oh, I hope Carson goes to this one. It's plus whiff rates across the board. He has the old school delivery too, the old school windup, which is electric. I'm here for that. We need a guy bringing that back into the ball game. But I've watched him in person, really deceptive. You pair deception with mid to upper 90s velocity and a well-rounded pitch mix, including a disgusting gyro slider and a sweeper, and you've got a really difficult at-bat and a guy that's going to be well inside our top 100.
We've got a debut to talk about to tie a bow on the Just Baseball show next.
Hey there, it's your buddy Craig Carton. If you're trying to find out how to get all the great content that me and Tyrone Johnson give you every single day, here's Tyrone to tell you how.
You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and of course, Amazon Music as well. We're at all four.
That's right. It's the Craig Carton Show podcast every weekday morning live at 11, replayed at noon on YouTube and on SportsGrid throughout the country. Check it out.
They're trading right now currently at 74 wins on the season, which means the Kalshi marketplace goes by 5-win intervals. 75-plus wins for those Houston Astros. That's a 49% contract to the yes, which a $100 investment pays back $205, Greg. I'm not high on this team. Look, again, 75 wins for the Astros is terrible, but this team might not even look the same as where we stand today by the time we get to that deadline.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You can recruit super young talent that may go in the NBA. You can recruit older guys and have them grow up together. But if you want players to stay, either sign them to contracts or treat them well enough where they're going to stay. To me, it's pretty simple. And, you know, a lot of coaches last year had good years and they left skid marks on their schools and nobody said a word.
Outspoken with Dan Cilio, only on SportsGrid.
Go over the summer where there's drastic changes and gas drops down to $3 a gallon, $2.50 a gallon in some states, and then you have some of the price markets go down. You ride that momentum is what Joe's talking about. So if you say right now, which party will win the U.S. House, and you think it's the Republicans currently trading at 20%, you take them now, and if good press comes, that turns into 25% and 30%, then you have the option to cash out.
Prediction Markets Edge, only on SportsGrid.
Just Baseball show is coming to a close, and Jeff Passan of ESPN reported late on Monday night that Gage Jump is getting up to make his major league debut with the Athletics. Gage Jump, left-hander, second-round pick in 2024 at LSU. Gage Jump, 23-year-old from Aliso Viejo, California, started his college career at UCLA, transferred to LSU, and in 2025 was one of the breakout arms in Major League Baseball. 112 innings at a 3.3 ERA, punched out 131, nearly 11 punch-outs per nine. And Jump with AAA Las Vegas this year has been good. 38 innings at a 4.5 ERA. The number that jumps out, in 38 innings, he's punched out 56 guys. Really, since early May of last year, you have been saying, check out Gage Jump. Check out Gage Jump. Like a lot of people talking about Jamie Arnold, but like Gage Jump. And Jump and Arnold combined to probably make the second best left-handed pitcher tandem in minor league baseball, along with Snelling and White in Miami. But Gage Jump is getting up to make his major league debut for a team that has a really fun offense that lacks pitching at points. Why can Gage Jump be a net positive for the Athletics?
I mean, we talked about him last year. It's just, you know, one of my favorite lefties in the minor leagues with the way that he was performing. And the PCL aspect is always going to be difficult, right? Where you can see guys just the ERA is going to be a bit inflated. He's coming up on a heater here too. And he went out in Reno, which is a really tough place to pitch. And he went 4 shutty there and struck out 6. And then he followed that up with another start where he went 7 innings, 4 hits, no runs, no walks, 9 Ks. The command is a little bit of the variable. When Gage Jump is on, he's filling it up. There's times where it's a deceptive release. And we talked about it a lot on the call-up. It's part of why I think he's so nasty, where he drops to start driving. The arm kind of goes quickly, but then it's almost like a hesitation, and then it goes. So it throws off the timing but for the hitter, but sometimes it throws off the timing for him ever so slightly too. It seemed like Jump found some pretty good consistency with it last year, and I think over the last couple of starts has found it this year, and clearly the Athletics feel like he's gotten to a point where he's back in rhythm again. It's a plus heater that I think plays up even beyond that with the deception. And you have the rest of the arsenal that looks extremely sharp with just the funkiness from the left side. This could be one of the better swing and miss guys in their rotation immediately. And when you look at what he was able to do in the body of work last year, for an A's team that sees the division is kind of wide open, it's a great time to bring Jump up, because if he struggles a little bit out of the gate, let him get comfortable, let him develop. And this is a guy that if you're going to ultimately reach the ceiling of your season this year, it's going to be because Gage Jump is in there throwing well, instead of, maybe a Jacob Lopez, as solid as he was last year. So I love that they're doing it now. And I think this is a guy that has middle rotation upside, and it looks like he's not too far from being able to attain that.
Are they close to legitimate contention? And I feel bad saying the word legitimate there, but it does feel like the A's are going to kind of scrap their way into the conversation, and they're going to win enough 8-6 ball games to be in the conversation. But at some point, the A's are going to make the pivot from, I guess, like spicy, fun team that's frisky and will beat you in a weird ball game to, oh man, the A's are like legit threats to win this division and go deep in the American League. Can Gage Jump kind of help fortify that idea? I assume there's more that needs to come. Like Perkins needs to come, Arnold needs to come. Like there's plenty of other guys that can help kind of fortify that claim, but they have to get better pitching wise. Can Jump help them push in that direction to be a legitimate contender?
I do think he helps push in that direction, just because how often you get to bring up you don't just get to add an arm who has 3+ pitches, from the left side. And it doesn't mean that's going to translate immediately, but we're seeing more and more of these pitchers. It has. Sometimes it doesn't, especially with lefties, and there's a little bit of a development process there. But if he is a guy that also fits the bill of being able to make that leap immediately, then yeah. I mean, if he's a 3.8 to 4 ERA guy with big strikeout stuff, which again, we know he has, that's an upgrade from what they currently have. And that makes their rotation better. So I think it helps. They're going to have to just mash their way into it. And I think that's going to come with Tyler Soderstrom not having a 79 WRC plus, Brent Rooker not having a 75. Like, you have Carlos Cortez out of nowhere. You have Kurtz and Langeliers looking like one of the better power duos in the big leagues. And like Severino is better this year. Like you have the emergence of Ginn. I can talk myself into this team. Absolutely. And I think Jump only helps raise the ceiling. He may struggle, so you don't know, but you can dream on a higher end scenario here instead of just like a stopgap starter.
We'll see what they look like. The A's feel like the Nats of the American League right now, again, where it's just fun and they're scoring a bunch of runs. Can you pitch enough? Gage Jump, certainly a jump in the positive direction there. All right, so we talked about the Phillies and the Nats kind of being that like jumper in the National League East, being that, climb team in the National League East and pushing to contention. Also talked about the Met anemia. Jacob Misiorowski has been absolutely outstanding. And then a minor league update. So that'll do it from us at the Just Baseball Show. Reminder, every link you need is in the episode description for the audio and the video crowd. Thank you so much for joining us with our friends at SportsGrid. Love chatting with you on Tuesdays and Wednesdays on that platform. We've got so much more good stuff to come over the course of the week. Plenty of other major league headlines to talk about, and baseball in full swing. We didn't even get to Reed Detmers' 14 punch-out performance on Sunday Night Baseball, but you guys hit on that on the roundup. Big thank you to Peyton Ginas for Aram Leighton. I'm Jack McMullen. We will talk to you guys soon on the Just Baseball Show.
good does it get?